Hi, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Amanda, here to facilitate today's webinar hosted by Property Track. Thank you for making time to join us today. We'll be discussing planning and budgeting for facilities management during COVID-19. If you have questions, please post those in the Q&A section of Zoom at the bottom of your screen. We'll take a break about halfway through the webinar and again at the end to answer any questions. I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, John Alexander. John is COO at Property Track and is involved with project management, move coordination, and emergency planning. John has more than 30 years of experience in the field of facility management. He earned the title of Certified Facility Manager from IFMA in 1994. John, welcome. I'll turn things over to you now.
Thank you, Amanda, and welcome everyone. Property Track is pleased to present our webinar, and as Amanda stated, the title is Planning and Budgeting for Facilities Management as has been impacted by COVID-19. I'm sure it will be different for each one of you in your various industries, but Property Track has over 15 years experience in developing and supporting our cloud-based CMMS product, and our nationwide client base ranges from a broad spectrum of environments such as healthcare, banking and finance, manufacturing, education, nonprofits, museums, etc. So it speaks to the point about flexibility, ease of use, and how we can help you support your operations. Again, I'm John Alexander, your host today, and I'm proudly joined by John Massey, the CEO and founder of Property Track, plus Paul Nicholson, our marketing manager, and you've already met Amanda. We will share thoughts about the value of a CMMS system and how it can impact your budgeting processes beyond the day-to-day benefits of managing assets, service requests, work orders, and all that goes with your operations. Again, just a reminder to Amanda's comment, use the chat feature to submit any questions, and we'll stop about halfway through to address some of those. The annual budgeting and planning process for many of you may be in full swing. A lot of you will start in September if your fiscal year is January through December, but COVID-19 makes 2020 and 2021 budgets extremely unique. Many of you may have to adapt to a zero-based budgeting process where each line item has to be realigned to reflect the impact, if any, of COVID-19, and to be prepared to compare the amounts of dollars requested versus applying some cost of living adjustments to your most recent budget. So instead of just applying a 2 or 3% cost of living factor, you may well have to adjust line item by line item based on the impact of COVID-19. The zero-based budgeting supports that, but more importantly, Property Track supports that. This is an opportunity for you to evaluate any of the corporate expansions or contractions in real estate or staffing that may have already been imposed on you. But most importantly, it gives you the opportunity to meet with the C-suite and other top management levels to establish a stronger relationship and incorporate some of what you learn from them in the options within your budgeting process. Similarly, use your vendors and staff to audit your most mission-critical or expensive assets and systems. So we're going to dive into how you do that, what is an add, what's a subtract, and it'll be different for each of you potentially, but this gives an idea of some of the areas of impact that our clients have shared with us. Many of you may have had to adjust to using MERV 13 filters, or at least a higher quality filter than you have in the past. That, of course, is an increased cost. Similarly, your spacing of furniture and fixtures may have to be adjusted. Your regulatory requirements may have been revised with all of the COVID-19 testing of temperatures and documentation that's required. Your utility consumption may have adjusted based on occupancy, hours of operation, etc. This also gives you a chance to look at CAM charges if you're a tenant or if you're a landlord, and see if those need adjusting, and if so, how does that impact your revenue or your expense side of your budgeting. So all of these things and more are subject to adjustment because of the COVID-19 impact on your corporate structure. So here are some examples of some ads. Again, some of these might actually be subtracts for you, but if you're having to incorporate more outside air and possibly run your HVAC system longer for fresh air exchanges, then that, from an operating standpoint, could increase both the maintenance frequency and the cost for those maintenance services, as well as the utility charges associated with that. Similarly, installation of UV filtering has become quite popular, and even down to the level of accounting for PPE supplies. Very expensive, and we're going to dig into that a little bit deeper later in this presentation. Also, maybe you've had to increase your levels of security just to adhere to the new protocols. On the opposite side of that are the deductions that may be applicable to your operation. So if your office hours have been reduced, maybe you are using less electricity, less water, less sewer, and gas. So make sure that you reflect those adjustments, or at least make mention of the potential for those. Same for staffing levels for many of you, and all of those items can ultimately be reflected in your new budget. Some of you may be responsible for fleet management, so leased vehicles. Reduced mileage on those may decrease the frequency of maintenance, and you in fact may want to look at your leases, and we're going to show that a little bit later, and turn some of these items back in, or if you own them, possibly sell them off. Maintenance, all of the things that many of us are responsible for, carpet cleaning, lighting retrofits, plumbing, etc. All of these are open to renegotiation if they're under a vendor support contract, or internally you may need to adjust the frequency with which some of these services are performed. The root of Property Track is built around assets and equipment. During this presumed downtime for some of you, it's an ideal time for you to capture the assets, reevaluate their condition, determine which ones are critical to your mission and put your emphasis on that evaluation with them, which are most expensive to maintain, and should you be looking at and obtaining bids and contracts to possibly upgrade or replace them over this short period of time. Again, affecting both the capital side of your budget and potentially the operating budget aspects of this process. We mentioned very early that some of you may be experiencing downsizing, making sure that your contracts are reflective of the ability to get out of them on a timely basis is important, and we provide all of that skill set within the various modules of Property Track. Another opportunity for you to capture photos and update your KPIs on an asset-by-asset basis, because you're the second largest line item for most budgets behind personnel. So take advantage of this opportunity to share with upper management and the C-suite on the value that you and your team bring to the business. This is an idea of how distinctly you can record information on assets, both by division, down to a property, down to a type of asset. So the example shown here is a Ford F-150 vehicle, capturing the serial number, etc. All of this is supported in our mobile app that we will show you in a little bit. But you'll notice that this is a leased vehicle, and as such, it has a 3-year term, and built into our product is the ability for auto generation of emails to the appropriate parties to make sure that you send the appropriate cancellation notices by the due date, and that you capture all of the costs that are associated with that lease if there are escalation clauses or mileage adjustments that need to be made. And again, notice all of the photos that are involved in this product as well. Our mobile app has probably been the biggest benefit for our customers. And here you're seeing technology displayed on a smartphone. This is supported on smartphones, be they Android or iOS, through our free mobile app. It's also very well served on tablets. And it is so critical that your staff or technicians, including those that you contract with through vendors, have access to the pertinent information when they're in the field standing right in front of the equipment. We've additionally added the support of QR labels to that process. So now a technician can walk up to an asset, scan the QR code, and be taken directly to an open work order, assuring that the documentation that they make in completing the work order is attributed to the proper asset, and thus supports reporting, which we're going to get into in just a second, and in turn supporting your budget analytics throughout. So this might be a good time, Amanda, to ask of our people that are in attendance if they have any questions.
Yeah, anybody feel free to post questions in either the chat or the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. John, we did get one question here so far from Bobby Brown. Says he's with Gold Roofing in Birmingham, Alabama. He says, does this program have procedures for extreme weather events that can help with response and planning?
Excellent question. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Bobby. Yes, we have an emergency module within our product that supports such a catastrophic event and uses our standard work order process to document all responses while capturing labor and material costs that can be incorporated in a report at a later date. During this emergency situation, it's important that everyone be able to revert back to what they've used every day in controlling the responses to service requests and work orders. Hopefully, your budgeting process takes these types of issues into account, given your Birmingham location. So hopefully you've budgeted for weather impacted events. Now you can report through our processes how you compared in the actual expenses versus what were budgeted for these types of events. Because we are web-based, you aren't reliant upon your corporate data center infrastructure. And again, your staff or your outside contractors can access the property track modules and document everything, which has within the emergency module a really extensive reporting system. So thank you very much.
All right, John, I've got another question that came in. Gregory Gibson says, did I see that floor plan integration is available with your CMMS program?
Absolutely. We're very proud of our floor plan integration. And as you saw in the previous slide, it can show where an asset is. You can use it as part of your emergency plan that we just spoke of to show the evacuation plans with the red arrows on them. You can use the QR labels to scan locations as well as assets. So we're all about integrating each of the modules and each of the aspects of your operation. And if you're not ready for that at the startup of the implementation, these modules can be integrated at a later date, but we would welcome the opportunity to find out what your needs are and address them appropriately.
All right, thanks, John. No more questions right now. If any come in, I'll save them for the end.
Very good, thank you. Appreciate it, Amanda. So reporting is a way of life for most of us, and assets being high dollar value and critical to your operations, this is one of our canned or standard reports titled Equipment End of Service Life Report. And again, with this COVID impact, it's an awesome time to look at your individual assets, and you'll see that there are multiple filter criteria that you can select from before generating the report. But this is a rooftop unit. It shows what the model number is, what the manufacturer, where it's located, what its original value is, what its replacement value is estimated to be. So that difference, or delta, if you will, represents the cost of labor to remove and install the new unit, as well as the fixed asset itself, all of which plays into your accounting department's depreciation schedule. As importantly, we have a data entry field called expected end of life. So if you insert a new asset today, and or let's say June 1st of 2019, you entered that asset, and that category of equipment has an anticipated 20-year lifespan, it will automatically insert June 1st, 2039, or you can manually override that to reflect the unique conditions of that particular asset. But again, reports are critical to it, your operations, and our reports are exportable in PDF, Excel, and CSV in most cases. So in addition to the standard reporting, we are pleased to offer customizable reports. Here you can see a wide variety of filter criteria that can help you. These customizable reports support equipment, work orders, and even at the service request entry level. Gather all of the KPI standards or whatever information is important to you, save those, and name this particular report for your purposes. You can even tell the system to auto-generate the report every week or month. And beyond that, you can even cause it to generate the report via email automatically to yourself or to your management team. So I think you can see the value and the customizability of our reporting system based on data that you've already gathered in the day-to-day operations of your department. Many of us have seen the value that our management team places on graphics. You can succinctly display a lot of information in a bar chart, pie chart like we're seeing here, where you've accumulated cost data or hours expended in maintenance on a specific asset or a group or categorization of various assets within the system. So benefit from all that comes out of these reports and share them across the platforms of your management team on a regular basis. And again, this creates a benchmarking ability for you to compare your performance or that of a vendor on a regular basis. But what have we all learned? Budgeting is a process. It's not a hope. It's a plan that requires you to capture data, to report on that data, and to be able to share with your management team the value that is referred to as the ROI for preventive maintenance. The old axiom is that for every dollar spent on preventive maintenance, you'll save $5 in future expenses. So it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to prove it. So prove the ROI of those expensive preventive maintenance programs, again, whether they're performed internally or externally, things like maintenance on elevator systems, etc. High dollar, high valued assets, and show that to your management team. These are the types of tools you'll need to help you meet your budget and not just hope about it. So we mentioned early on the impact of consumable inventory. The reference at that point were on PPE supplies. And as you can see in this graphic, some of our clients, especially in the healthcare environment, have to manage inventories of hand sanitizers, various types of masks, and for all of you, maybe your HVAC filtering, especially if you've upgraded. So within the Property Track product, you can reduce costs, show that you've improved productivity, and you've managed your inventory. So many of these items now have a longer lead time than they used to, and you can go in and adjust your minimum reorder trigger point so that you don't run out of them, and remind you that you need multiple vendors to call upon to support the refilling of these inventory levels in case one of them is unable to meet your demands on a day-to-day basis. All of this is embedded, has the ability for you to embed it in work orders so that you're automatically capturing costs as they pertain to consumable inventory items throughout the process. And we use a FIFO system, first in, first out accounting methodology throughout. This graphic is intended to support the preventive maintenance process that we just alluded to. So within that, you may need to adjust the frequency of the PMs that are being performed. Again, if your occupancy levels are reduced, maybe your frequency of preventive maintenance on elevators can be reduced. You need to look at the contracts that are associated with that asset. All of those are at your fingertips. All of them on the browser and on your mobile app. You can quickly refer to the work orders that are scheduled, see them on the calendar, and make any adjustments as needed. But most importantly, they're automatically scheduled. How many of you can sincerely tell your management that PMs are performed when they're supposed to be, and that the various commitments and contractual obligations that you've made with the vendors or your staff to assure compliance with the preventive maintenance schedules are being adhered to? So the incorporation of custom checklists, which we're going to show you in a moment, really protect your investments in these assets, protect the dollars and contractual obligations that you've made with outside vendors, and assure the maximum life for any of your assets. So all of these things flow together without you having to manage each item separately. So we referenced checklists, and here you're seeing an example of one from a healthcare environment. You can see that they have the option of having pull downs, so it could be a yes, no, is the room occupied, check boxes where they just simply indicate that they've done what they were supposed to do, multi-line text where they can enter data such as pressure or water temperatures, etc. All of these items that are appropriate to assure compliance are built into these custom checklists, and we provide templates that you can clone and then modify them for the uniqueness of your operation. Here you're seeing how these checklists work. Embedded in a standard work order is the ability for you to attach a checklist. Again, this can be unique to a specific asset or a property, but all of these line items will appear in the work order, and we'll show that in a second, that are on the mobile app. But here's where you can adjust the scheduling of it. How far in advance of a due date or a complete by date do you want the email issued to your internal staff or vendor? Again, automatically generating a work order so that it's not overlooked and that you meet the requirements of maintenance for any particular asset or process, fire extinguisher checks, etc. All of this is intended for you to meet your budget needs and adjust your budgets based on the circumstances of the day. We alluded to how that is displayed within a work order. You see that we've got red arrows next to some of the items which are required. Thus, a technician can't complete or close a work order unless they make the appropriate selection or enter the appropriate data. That assures that the reports that you generate later, be they Excel, CSV, or PDFs, have all of the data and gives you a benchmark comparison. And you'll see that there is a camera icon at the bottom. Again, the value of the mobile app is that you can require that technician to take a before and after picture and embed it in the work order. Now all of that history of work performed is sitting in front of you for a review at a later date. Intrust Bank, a client of ours from the beginning, has shown that the implementation of preventive maintenance has reduced their failures of critical equipment by 35%, and more importantly has raised their acceptance and value within their own organization to a satisfaction rating of 98%, and that extends or extrapolates all the way out to their clients, the customers of Intrust Bank, who drive up to an ATM and are assured that the lighting, the cleanliness, all of the operating aspects of that ATM are being maintained to high standards. So this brings us to a reminder of a variety of aspects of our product. It's built around work order management, but as we started out with in response to one of the questions about emergency preparedness, and then got into the reservations and floor plans aspects of our product and all of the reporting and QR labels, we are a very customizable product to meet the needs of each of the variety of customers that we are pleased to have listed on our website. The ROI that comes from implementing Property Track ranges from a 29% increase in maintenance productivity to even a 20% reduction in downtime, very critical, especially during these times. And then, since we're talking about budget, many of our clients are bragging about a 35% savings in their annual budgeting. So budgeting is a plan, not a hope. We hope that this oversight gives you an understanding of the value of Property Track in support of your budgeting process, in evaluating how COVID-19 has impacted any of the line items in your budget, capital or operating. And we would welcome the opportunity to speak with you and answer your specific questions, please feel free to reach out to us at info@propertytrack, spelled TRAK.com, to let us help you organize, automate, and simplify the day-to-day operations of your department within your organization. So Amanda, do we have any other questions that we might address at this time?
Yeah, John. So we've got one here from Greg. Is there a preferred method of counting chairs within a facility? Is it necessary to place an asset tag on every single chair, or can they be accounted for as a group?
Great. It is done both ways by our clients. Many of our clients will just use the category of stacked chairs or executive chairs and only assign one QR label. But if things like fire extinguishers, if you need to make sure that you've looked at each fire extinguisher during the process and have addressed concerns about when it might need to be tested for a water pressure test or needs to be replaced, then you may wish to have an individual QR label associated with it. But the checklist that we referred to earlier can let you have one work order, go through the list, and then if you get to a fire extinguisher that fails to meet all of the criteria, you can have it automatically generate a service request or work order that uniquely ties back to that one asset, keeps that record, but still supports the overall process of one work order for the monthly fire extinguisher inspection. I hope that answers Greg's question.
If not, he could reach out to you at info@propertytrack.com. Let's see, John, do you have time for one more question?
I do.
Okay, is this tool designed to work for independent contractors and consultants?
Yes, in two different ways. So Property Track can be something that a client, an end user, if you will, shares with their preferred vendors, and we've had great responses to that philosophy so that we're assured that the vendor is addressing all of their needs in an appropriate manner, but equally, the vendor can be our client, and they can offer the service to their customer base and assure a communication process that is valuable for maintaining all of the responses to service requests, scheduling of work orders, so if there's a conflict, that customer can say, oh, you can't restripe the parking lot that week because we have a special event. So yes, we're very proud that the product works from either perspective.
All right, thanks, John. Well, we're a couple minutes over. I think we can go ahead and wrap up.
Well,
John, any
I
last...
appreciate... Go ahead, Amanda, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was just gonna ask if you had any last comments for the viewers.
Again, because of the breadth of client needs and the fact that we support multiple departments, not just facilities, we would welcome the opportunity to meet in a go-to-meeting session with any of you. Please reach out to us. Please look at our website where you can see pricing and the module offerings. Thank you for attending and participating. We look forward to further discussions.
Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
Everyone have a good day.